St Mary's Church in Santon Downham is set in a most tranquil spot on the edge of the forest at the end of the large village green. The Domesday Book notes the existence of a church in the village, most probably wooden and replaced by the present one. The nave was begun in the 12th century and built towards the east, culminating in the chancel, which was finished during the 13th century. The tower was built between 1460 and 1500 as a result of bequests made by various members of local families. Interesting to note, on the north side of the tower, about 2/3 up, there is a yellow brick that marks the spot, reputedly, of the level at which the sand came to rest in the famous sandstorm of 1668. The derivation of the place name probably means the sandy place. This aptly describes the local soil condition. Light land was easy to farm, and the river valley was certainly cultivated in Roman times. Before the work of the Forestry Commission in creating Thetford Forest, the light soil had become a menace. Huge sandstorms are said even to have diverted the course of the river, so that one farmer was unsure if his farm was in Norfolk or Suffolk. The surrounding Breckland area was a great place for rabbits and game, as well as for naturalists. The first rector is recorded in 1311. The medieval church may have been on the present site or reasonably close by. By the 16th century, the right to present rectors to the church lay with Thetford Priory. After the dissolution of the monasteries, it passed through several hands and for many years lay with the mayor and commonalty of Thetford. By the time of Queen Elizabeth's reign, the church was in such decay that the tithes were diverted to the crown. However, help was at hand, repairs were undertaken, and the church was reconsecrated at Epiphany on January the 6th, 1628. These repairs were carried out at the expense of Thomas Bancrofte, a remembrancer in the King's Exchequer, and, according to Blomfield in his History of Norfolk, the sole parishioner of Santon. A remembrancer was the officer responsible for collecting debts due to the Crown, and this may be why Bancrofte lived in such a remote spot. Thomas Bancrofte died in 1636 and is buried beneath the slab at the east end of the nave floor. The Latin inscription is now virtually unreadable, but it has been translated as follows. Thomas Bancrofte, Armiger, one of the chief secretaries in the record office of him who is remembrancer to the controller of the King's Treasury. At his own great and voluntary charges, this church, long utterly demolished and asleep and buried in its rubble, has at last risen again and is alive. To him, his most excellent wife Margaret, in addition to the many children long since dead, bore 3 daughters, to wit, Helena, joined in wedlock to Robert Sadleir at Sopwell, close to the town of St Albans in Hertfordshire; Elizabeth, who was married to John Scroggs, gent of Patmore Hall in the same county; and the marriageable virgin Margaret, whom he left an object of great desire because of his splendid dowries. He, full of days and ripe old age, in certain hope of the resurrection and the last trump, freed from mortality, in peace fell asleep in the Lord here on Friday 15th of April 1636. This little church contains some fascinating anomalies. Next to the north porch outside, there is evidence of an additional, or most probably an earlier, Trinity Chapel. There is an arch filled with knapped flint, and to the east a very well preserved piscina, which is a small collection of water used by priests for washing their hands or ceremonial chalices. The little niche above the door in the porch is off-centre, indicating that the much thicker east wall of the porch was originally the west side of this chapel, most probably destroyed during the Reformation. Above the south doorway, there is a carved stone panel depicting what could be a wolf, symbolising evil, devouring the tree of life, which indestructible sprouts from the wolf's tail, symbolic of the resurrection. High up in the south wall of the nave is an arched opening, having in it the remains of a medieval scroll painting, but it bears no relation to anything else in the church. When it comes to reported activity, there is supposedly the spirit of Reverend Kendall, who isn't afraid to make his presence known and often comes forward and communicates. This spirit is apparently fairly hostile and maybe not a good idea to provoke. Reports of footsteps, breezes, and also EVPs are very rife at this location. These reports have been received from Eddie Mallet and Haunted Earth.